Okay, so you're thinking about giving your business insurance,
Yeah.
like a good
Yeah.
once over, you know, maybe even. Snag a new quote from Good Rates Insurance. I like where your head's at. But
Uh,
insurance can feel like you're just wading through a swamp of paperwork sometimes. Not to worry. Today we're going on a deep dive. That might just change how you think about insurance altogether, especially when it comes to these MGAs,
yeah.
these managing general agents you might not have even heard of before.
You're absolutely right. MGAs fly under the radar for most folks,
Yeah.
but they can have a big impact on your insurance choices, even if you're not dealing with them directly.
We've got two key sources for this deep dive. An article that really unpacks MGA regulation in Canada. And then we've got Good Rates Insurance's own website. Now, this might sound a little out there, but stick with me. What's going on with Canadian regulations around MGAs affect your choices, even if you're not up north?
That's a great question, and it highlights how interconnected the insurance world really is. What happens in one country can ripple out and influence practices,
Right.
pricing, and even the types of coverage available elsewhere.
So first things first, what exactly IS and MGA? They sound kind of like shadowy figures in the insurance world.
They're not quite cloak and dagger, but they do operate behind the scenes. Think of them as specialized middlemen. They work with insurance brokers to find the right coverage for clients, but they don't typically interact directly with the clients themselves.
So they're like the wizards behind the curtain,
Mm-hmm.
pulling levers and making the insurance magic happen.
That's a fun way to put it. But that's also where things can get a little tricky. The article uses this great phrase, muddy waters. Sometimes the line between what an MGA does and what a broker does gets blurred. And that can be a challenge from a regulatory standpoint.
So hold on. If I'm shopping for business insurance,
Mm-hmm.
how do I even know if I'm dealing with a broker or an MGA? And why should I even care?
That's the key question, isn't it? Understanding the distinction can make a difference in how your needs are represented. A broker is typically your advocate, working directly for you to find the best coverage at the best price. An MGA, on the other hand, is primarily focused on evaluating risk and underwriting policies for the insurance companies they represent. They might not have your individual needs as their top priority.
What's like the difference between having a personal shopper who knows your style versus grabbing whatever's on the rack at a department store? So this Canadian regulation thing, why should we even be talking about this?
The article digs into how different provinces in Canada regulate MGAs, and it's a mixed bag, honestly. Some have specific licenses, some don't, and there's this debate about whether a national approach would be better. But here's where it gets interesting for you. This fragmented system actually reflects a global trend. Insurance regulations can vary wildly from place to place, and that can impact how MGAs operate, the products they offer, and ultimately the choices you have as a consumer.
Okay, so even if I'm not planning on setting up shop in Canada anytime soon, this regulatory patchwork is something I need to be aware of.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that the insurance landscape is complex and constantly evolving. Understanding the roles of different players, like MGAs, can help you navigate that complexity and make more informed decisions about your coverage.
All right, let's say I'm sold on the importance of MGAs. How do I know if an MGA is, actually good at what they do?
That's where audits come in. Think of them as quality control checks for MGAs. They can be preventative, making sure everything's running smoothly, or remedial, identifying issues that need to be addressed.
So it's not just about having rules. It's about making sure those rules are being followed. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And third-party audits are especially important because they bring an objective perspective. It's like having an independent referee, making sure the game is played fairly. For you as a business owner, asking potential providers about their auditing practices can be incredibly revealing. It shows their commitment to transparency and accountability, which ultimately benefits you.
It's like checking the safety record of an airline before you book a flight. You want to know they're taking precautions and following regulations, right?
Precisely. It's about peace of mind and making sure you're working with a provider who prioritizes compliance and ethical practices.
Okay. I'm definitely seeing MGAs in a new light now. They're not just these mysterious figures anymore. They're key players in the insurance game.
And understanding their role is crucial when you're evaluating providers like Good Rates Insurance and the services they offer.
Speaking of good rates, let's shift gears and talk about what they bring to the table for businesses like yours. They seem to have a pretty comprehensive range of options, from commercial auto to cyber insurance and everything in between.
They do cover a lot of ground. What's interesting is how they position themselves as specialists in small business insurance. And that focus could be a major advantage for you.
Okay, I'm all ears. What makes specializing in small business insurance so important?
Well, small businesses often have unique needs and face different risks. compared to larger corporations. A specialized provider like Goodrates is more likely to understand those nuances and offer tailored solutions that actually fit your situation.
So it's like going to a tailor for a custom-made suit,
Yeah,
rather than trying to squeeze into something off the rack.
exactly. You want a provider who understands your business, your industry, and your specific risk profile. That's where the value of specialization really shines.
All right, I'm convinced. Specializing is a good thing. But how does Goodrates actually deliver on that promise? What kind of services do they offer that set them apart?
That's what we'll be diving into next. We'll take a closer look at their website, break down their different coverage options, and see how they stack up against the criteria we've discussed so far.
All right, so we've established that MGAs can play a significant role in the insurance landscape, and that specialization can be a major plus when you're choosing a provider. Now let's zoom in on Goodrates Insurance and see what they have to offer.
Looking at their website, they seem to cover the whole spectrum of business insurance needs. They've got everything from the basics like commercial auto and property insurance to more specialized areas like cyber insurance and professional liability.
Okay, that's a good start. But how do they go beyond just offering a laundry list of policies? How do they actually tailor their services to small businesses?
One thing that jumps out is their emphasis on industry-specific solutions. They have dedicated sections for contractors insurance, garage insurance, manufacturers insurance, and even rented dwelling insurance. It's clear they're not just offering a generic one-size-fits-all approach.
So they're recognizing that a construction company will have different insurance needs
Yeah.
than, say,
Yeah.
a software company or a restaurant.
Exactly. And that's a good sign. It suggests they're thinking about the unique risks and challenges faced by different types of businesses and tailoring their coverage accordingly. Remember those muddy waters we talked about earlier? This is where understanding the distinction between brokers and MGAs becomes really important.
Okay, remind me how that plays into this.
If you're working with a broker, they're acting as your advocate, shopping around and comparing policies from multiple MGAs and insurance companies to find the best fit for your specific needs. But if you go directly to Goodrates, which is an MGA itself, they're primarily focused on underwriting policies for the insurance companies they represent.
So it's like the difference between having a personal stylist who curates a wardrobe for you versus going to a single clothing store and hoping they have something you like. You're more likely to get a perfect fit with a stylist, right?
Exactly. A broker can provide a wider perspective and help you navigate the complexities of the insurance market. They can also offer valuable advice on things like risk management and loss prevention.
All right, that makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
But let's say I'm intrigued by Goodrates and their specialized approach. What are some key questions I should ask them to make sure they're the right fit for my business?
Remember those due diligence steps we discussed? Those are crucial here. First, think about your own business and the specific risks you face. A construction company will have different concerns than a tech startup, for example. Once you have a clear picture of your needs, you can start asking Goodrates targeted questions.
Okay, like what? Give me some examples.
Don't be shy about asking who will be underwriting your policy. Is it Goodrates themselves? Or are they working with another MGA or insurance company? What's their track record and financial stability? You can also ask about their claims process. How do they handle claims? What's their average turnaround time?
So I should be grilling them, like I am interviewing a potential employee.
Not quite a grilling, but definitely come prepared with questions that will give you a deeper understanding of how they operate. And remember, you mentioned audits earlier. That's a key area to explore.
Right, the quality control checks.
Mm-hmm.
So I should just straight up ask them, hey, how often do you get audited?
You can be a bit more tactful than that. But yes, inquire about their auditing practices. Do they have regular internal audits? Do they engage third-party auditors? This demonstrates their commitment to compliance, transparency, and continuous improvement.
It's like checking if a restaurant has a good hygiene rating. You want to make sure they're following best practices and meeting industry standards.
Exactly. And don't forget to compare quotes from multiple providers, including those that work with brokers. This will give you a benchmark for pricing and coverage options.
It's all about being an informed consumer, right? Don't just settle for the first option that comes along. Do your research, ask the right questions, and make sure you're getting the best possible protection for your business.
That's exactly right. And remember, insurance isn't just about protecting yourself from financial loss. It's also about peace of mind. Knowing you have the right coverage in place can free you up to focus on what you do best, running your business.
Okay, so we've covered MGAs, specialized insurance, due diligence,
Yeah.
and asking the right questions. But let's be honest, One of the main things on everyone's mind when it comes to insurance is cost.
You're absolutely right. Cost is a major factor, and it's often the first thing people think about when shopping for insurance. But it's important to remember that the cheapest option isn't always the best option.
Right. It's like that old saying, you get what you pay for.
Exactly. When evaluating insurance quotes, don't just focus on the premium. Look at the coverage limits, deductibles, and exclusions. A policy with a lower premium might have higher deductibles or limited coverage, which could end up costing you more in the long run if you need to make a claim.
So it's a balancing act. You want to find the sweet spot between affordability and adequate coverage.
Precisely. And that's where working with a knowledgeable broker can be incredibly valuable. They can help you understand the trade-offs and find a policy that strikes the right balance for your business.
Okay, let's say I've done my research, I've asked all the right questions, and I'm ready to get a quote from Good Rates. What's the best way to go about that?
Their website makes it pretty straightforward. You can request a quote online, give them a call, or even connect with them through social media. They seem to offer multiple channels to make it easy for potential customers to get in touch.
All right, so they're making themselves accessible. But once I have that quote in hand, what should I do next? Should I just sign on the dotted line?
Hold your horses. Remember, a quote is just a starting point. Don't be afraid to negotiate. Ask if there are any discounts available, or if they can adjust the coverage limits to better fit your needs.
So it's like haggling at a flea market. You don't have to accept the first price they offer.
Exactly. And remember, you're not just buying a product, you're entering into a relationship. You want to feel comfortable with the provider you choose and confident that they will be there for you when you need the most.
All right, I'm feeling much more prepared to tackle the world of business insurance now. But before we wrap up, is there anything else I should keep in mind when evaluating Good Rates or any other insurance provider?
One final thought. Think about the bigger picture. Insurance is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to protecting your business. You also need to think about things like risk management, loss prevention, and business continuity planning.
Okay, so it's not just about having insurance. It's about having a holistic approach to managing risk.
Precisely. A comprehensive risk management strategy will help you identify potential threats, mitigate those risks, and ensure the long-term success of your business.
Great advice. All right, we've covered a lot of ground today. Let's recap the key takeaways and give our listeners some actionable steps they can take to protect their businesses. So we've been talking about how important it is to be an informed consumer when it comes to business insurance. We've dug into MGAs, the importance of specialization, due diligence, and even haggling over quotes. Phew. But let's bring it all home. If I'm thinking about getting a quote from Good Rates, what are the key takeaways I should keep in mind?
First, don't underestimate the power of knowing your own needs. What are the specific risks your business faces? A restaurant will have very different concerns than a consultancy, for example. Having a clear picture of your risks will help you evaluate Good Rates offerings and see if they truly align with your needs.
It's like packing for a trip. You need to know where you're going before you can decide what to put in your suitcase. So know your risks. Check out their offerings. What's next?
Remember those muddy waters we talked about? Even though you're considering Good Rates for a quote, which means are going directly to an MGA, you might still want to consult with an independent insurance broker.
Wait, I thought we were trying to decide about Good Rates. Why would I bring a broker into the mix now?
A broker can act as your advocate, comparing quotes from multiple providers, including Good Rates, and ensuring you're getting the best possible coverage at the best price. Think of them as your insurance matchmaker. They can help you find the perfect fit.
So it's like getting a second opinion from a doctor. It never hurts to have another expert weigh in.
Exactly. And remember those key questions we discussed earlier. Don't be afraid to ask Good Rates about their auditing practices, their claims process, and the specifics of their policies. The more information you have, the better equipped you'll be to make an informed decision.
Knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of power, what about cost? We all want to save money, but I don't want to skimp on coverage either.
You're hitting the nail on the head. Cost is important, but it shouldn't be the only factor driving your decision. A policy with a low premium might have high deductibles or limited coverage, which could end up costing you more in the long run if you have to make a claim.
So how do I find that sweet spot between affordability and adequate coverage? It feels like walking a tightrope sometimes.
That's where a broker can really come in handy. They can help you understand the trade-offs and find a policy that strikes the right balance for your business. They can also point out potential discounts or ways to adjust coverage to fit your budget.
So whether I go directly to Good Rates or bring in a broker, the key is to be informed and ask the right questions.
I love that. Any final words of wisdom before we wrap things up?
One last thing. Remember that insurance is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to protecting your business. You also need to think about things like risk management, loss prevention, and business continuity planning. Having a comprehensive strategy in place will give you greater peace of mind and help you weather any storm that comes your way. That's fantastic advice. It's like having a safety net and a raincoat. You're prepared for anything. All right. I'm feeling a lot more confident about tackling my business insurance now. Thanks for taking us on this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure. Remember, knowledge is your best defense when it comes to navigating the complex world of insurance.
That's it for this deep dive into MGAs, data business, and why getting a quote from Good Rates might be the right move for you. We hope you've learned a thing or two and are ready to make informed decisions that protect your business. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep those entrepreneurial spirits soaring.